Hey fam, Dr. G here again. So, should you address that microaggression that you just experienced? First of all, let's look again at that definition of microaggressions. A statement, action, or incident regarded as an instance of indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as a racial or ethnic minority. So, three big questions to consider and ask yourself. First, do you have the energy in this instance, at this moment, to address this microaggression? As people of color, we are faced with microaggressions on a pretty regular basis in many environments, and it saps away at our energy. I take issue at times with the term microaggression because the effect that they have on those of us who are subject to them is anything but micro. Okay. This is happening a lot. It really wears away at our spirit. Consider whether or not you have the energy. Second question, are you in a safe position at this moment in this space to address the microaggression? Are you a student, a resident, a new employee? Is this microaggression coming from someone in a position of power over you? A supervisor, an attending, someone who can affect your progress in a certain space? That's something to take into consideration. Maybe you can't address this safely in this moment. Maybe you do need to go to someone in your HR department. Maybe you need to talk to your mentor, the advocates in your space. Maybe that's something that has to be considered first. Third, and maybe most important, do you value your relationship with the person, group, entity, business that the microaggression came from? That's really important. I was once in a meeting. It was actually a training. This was a PowerPoint presentation covering cross-cultural communication in the office. And they were giving different examples and situations. And on one slide, or a few slides, they depicted a group of African American women talking in an office and using what's been coined as African American vernacular English. So they were saying things in this caption like, I don't know why she be doing that. This ain't right, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm sitting and looking at this. Mind you, I am the only doctor of color in this conference room sitting around this table. And I'm looking around at my colleagues and there's no reaction, nothing. And I'm sitting thinking to myself, is this really happening? And I was just incensed. I was angry. I got up and I walked out. And as I was rising to leave and walking across to the door, the presenter stopped. There was silence. People had this kind of expression on their face and they're watching me walk out. So I left. I took a little walk around the block to just breathe and calm myself, which is very important for us to do in these situations because we want to take the process away from our primitive hindbrain up to our much more evolved frontal cortex. This is really important. Okay, take the time to do this if you run into these situations. So that's what I did. I went back. By that time, the presentation was done, and I went to the person from HR who was doing the presentation, and I said, this was really offensive. And I explained why. She was really surprised. She was really apologetic. It was clear that she had no intention of doing anything or saying anything offensive. So in this case, I valued my relationship with the company. It was really good company, really good people. And I took the time to write some new scenarios, new slides that could get the same message across that were not offensive for the company. And so that was important. We have to consider that we're making sure the next person of color doesn't have to experience the same thing that we just experienced. So if you're on the receiving end, if you are the one who's committed the microaggression and someone addresses it with you, be humble, take a breath, just relax, and keep in mind that someone has to value you. Someone has to believe in you enough to even take the time to address it. I committed a microaggression And I'm sure I commit them plenty. And there are times I probably don't even realize. But I went to Mexico many, many years ago with a really good friend of mine who is Mexican. On the way back in the airport in Mexico, I decided I needed to buy some souvenirs. So there were some little statuettes of, men leaning up against a tree or a wall or whatever with a sombrero and, the head down, obviously taking a nap. And she saw what I was buying and she said, Jamila, that's really offensive. She said it just like that. That's really offensive. That's what people think about us Mexicans. They think we're just sitting around in our sombreros, taking our little siesta. I was so ashamed. I was shocked that this had just gone over my head and I didn't get it. I just apologized and I put them back. And I'm so grateful that she valued our friendship enough and that she loved me enough to point this out and straighten me out about it. Now, if you've experienced a microaggression and you've not responded to it, don't kick yourself about that. Maybe you were just not ready at that moment. Maybe you're just exhausted at that moment. There's nothing to say that if you didn't respond in that moment, you can't go and gather up your arsenal and come back arsenal for good and come back later to address it. Experiencing microaggressions is hard enough, damaging enough, hurtful enough without us adding on and berating ourselves when we don't respond the way we may think we should have responded. We have to be kind to ourselves. That's what I have to say on the subject today. If you find the content on this channel helpful, if you think it can help other people, please like and recommend. A subscription to my channel is always appreciated. And if you want to reach out, if you want to be coached by me, visit my website. My contact information is in the description. Okay, fam. Talk to you again soon. Take care.